What's up, everybody? Welcome to 2022. We are super excited to start this brand new year with you, and I hope you guys are glad to be back in life groups. Tonight, we are going to begin a brand new series to begin the new year on Christian apologetics. So what are Christian apologetics? What does the term apologetics mean? Basically, the term apologetics just means to defend. Someone who's a Christian apologist is someone who defends the Christian faith. But the thing is, it's more than just defending. It's also being able to proclaim the Christian faith in a way that is intriguing and reasonable and appeals to people's minds and not just their hearts. And so this month, we are going to take an apologetics approach to three different questions that are commonly asked by skeptics. And these are three questions that maybe you've had friends ask you, or maybe you're sitting there tonight and you've actually asked these questions before. And so the three questions that we're going to talk about over the next 3 weeks are, aren't all people basically good? That's what we're going to talk about tonight. Aren't all people basically good? Week number 2 is the question, aren't Christians all hypocrites? And week number 3 is the question, isn't Christianity just a crutch? Isn't it just something that people believe to make them feel better? And like I said, these are three very common questions that we are going to take a serious look at because we believe that our faith is reasonable. We believe that our faith is worth defending and that it can stand up to any criticism that can be thrown at it. And so we're not going to shy away from it. In fact, we're going to go head first into some of these difficult questions. And we encourage you to ask your life group leaders whatever difficult questions you have. And so like I mentioned, tonight we are going to answer the question, aren't all people basically good? Aren't all people basically good? See, a lot of skeptics will ask this question because they do not like the distinction that Christianity makes between people who are going to heaven and people who are going to hell, or people who are called sinners and people who are seen to be religious. And I think that a lot of that comes from perhaps brokenness that some people have experienced in the past, even from going to church. Maybe people have felt very judged by others, or they've been talked down to because of some sins that they've committed. And so they would rather see everyone as just being basically good. And, I think that there's some good sentiment to that, but it really doesn't make sense, and it doesn't really hold up to the true aspects of Christianity. And so what we're going to do is we're actually going to respond to this question by asking 3 questions back. And so the first one that we should ask back if we are ever asked the question is, how do you know what is good? How do you know what is good? See, there has to be an objective standard for what is good. Someone who says that all people are basically good, what do they mean by that? What does good actually mean to them? Because in reality, different cultures across time and space have believed in different ideas for morality. Take, for instance, the ancient Aztecs. The ancient Aztecs performed human sacrifices, and they believed that this was something that was morally good, that this was a good, moral, religious practice, and that it would help their civilization thrive. But was that actually good? Or did they just think it was good? And how do you know what is actually good? See, here's the problem. You can't claim that everyone is basically good if you can't define what constitutes goodness. Now, someone might respond that, well, we all have consciences, which is true, but like I said, that only gets us so far. Our conscience points us to the fact that there is an objective standard. It points us to the fact that there is some sort of morality that exists in an objective way. It's not subjective. It's not something that we can just make up on our own. We have to believe that good is good and bad is bad. And so if someone asks, well, isn't everyone basically good? You have to ask them, well, how do you know what is good? See, for us as Christians, God's revealed word is our objective standard for what is good. We can know what is good. And it can actually contradict what we may even think in our heads, but we can go to it and we can see what actually pleases God, what is actually good, what is right and what is wrong, what is righteous and what is unrighteous. And so here are a few questions for you to answer in your life groups. And so in the passage that you just read, Jesus defines what is good. He says that God is truly good, and only God is truly good. See, the rich man, he thought that Jesus was just a man and assumed that he was good because he was some sort of religious teacher. But it was a wrong assumption. It was a wrong assumption, and that would be true with other people who just assume that people are basically good. Jesus flips that on its head. And so the next question that we can ask in response is, well, how good is good enough? How good is good enough? See, everyone believes that there's some sort of justice that has to take place. Even someone who believes that all people are basically good would hope that justice has to occur, at least for certain people. Because surely, if they believe in an afterlife, they would probably believe that someone like Hitler or Stalin and some of the most evil people in this world would receive some sort of punishment, some sort of justice. And so, like I said, the question then is, if there is a heaven and there is a hell, how do we determine what's good enough? How do we separate the truly bad people from the truly good people? Because, like I mentioned, surely not everyone is good enough to deserve eternity in paradise. And so we have to ask, where do we draw the line? What's the standard? Well, what if you had the standard here, and we have two people who are right there at the standard, right about to cross over from eternity in heaven or to eternity in hell, and they're about the same, but one person stole a cookie out of a cookie jar, and so that was otherwise they had the same exact morality. They did everything else exactly the same, but one person just sinned just a little bit more than the other person. What would happen to them? There has to be some sort of cutoff there. But see, then we're really picking at minutia, right? We're looking at every little tiny sin that someone commits in order to determine whether they get into heaven or they get into hell, or they're going to receive blessing or they're going to receive punishment. And that's why in Christianity, the only true standard for goodness is the goodness of God, like what Jesus says. It is perfection. When we talk about true goodness, we're talking about perfection. We should not diminish righteousness and goodness by saying that all people are basically good. That diminishes what true righteousness and true goodness actually is. Let me give you another analogy. That's like saying that because you have a Tom Brady jersey, that you're basically Tom Brady. That's like saying, well, because I do good things, I'm basically a good person. No, only God is truly good. Only Tom Brady is Tom Brady. Wearing Tom Brady's jersey and throwing a football doesn't make you Tom Brady. So the question is not, aren't all people basically good? Instead, the question is there anyone who is perfect? Is there anyone who is perfect? And so here are a few more discussion questions for your group. Well, as you just read in those verses, there is no one truly good because all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Only God is truly good. No one else can meet that standard. And so the next question we have to ask our skeptic in response is, how does striving to be good make you think about yourself? How does that impact the way that you really live? Like, surely it is good to try to be good, right? Well, let me maybe give you a few things to think about. See, striving to be good, if goodness is the goal, and that's what everyone seems to think, that is really exhausting and ultimately detrimental. Think about if you are trying to constantly be good in order to earn some sort of place for yourself in eternity or in paradise or to have a better afterlife. That is so tiring. You would be concerned and consumed by that every single day. And think about if you fall short, how terrible you would feel. Because that's going to impact your judgment, right? That's going to impact your eternity. Striving for goodness by itself leads to pride or despair because it is rooted in comparison. You're always going to be thinking, am I better or worse than him or her? Am I going to have a better eternity or afterlife than him or her because of the things that I've done? Or you maybe think, well, at least I'm not that bad. That is the product of striving to be good or some sort of reward punishment view of eternity. You will always have to strive to be better and better, because you're not sure if you're good enough. There's no room for forgiveness if you are judged by your goodness. Where does forgiveness fall in this perspective? The good news of the gospel is that there was a man, Jesus, who was good. See, what's ironic about Jesus' claim in Luke 18, which you read just a little bit ago, is that Jesus actually is good because he is God. Jesus was fully man and fully God. He was the only perfect human to ever live. And Jesus died the death that you deserved. He suffered the wrath of God on your behalf and counted to you all of the righteousness that he possessed. For us, the standard is perfection. But Jesus was perfect on your behalf. That all you must do is have faith in him. So what does that mean for us? That means that unlike someone who believes in a work-based righteousness, striving to be good, exhausting yourself in that way, it means that you can rest in grace because there is forgiveness for your sins. You don't have to strive or achieve or compare. You are free to live righteously out of an abundance of grace because of what Jesus did. So we are going to close out the night with a few more discussion questions for your groups. But as always, I am praying for you guys, and I hope to see you soon.